Do I smell like a flower?
It's not you.
I could have told you that. You didn't have to come over here and smell me. Howdy, friends. This is Kevin, and that's Lane, and this is our Restoration Nation. And you are watching Restoring Hope. If you didn't know where you were,
people do stumble in sometimes.
Hey, just in case you
like
didn't know where you were.
That one time you thought you were going to the knee doctor and signed into the gynecologist. True story.
That's my most embarrassing story. One of my most embarrassing stories. There's a long list. But yes, so okay, now we have to tell it, right?
People do sometimes wander into the wrong room. Yes, you can please tell the story.
They made the mistake when they built that hospital of putting more than one floor in that hospital. So when I went to the right corner office, that was my knee doctor. I'd been there before. Mm-hmm. It transformed magically into a gynecologist office that had been there for decades.
The one that I went to and that you had been to me, that's what makes it even funnier, is you had been to that office with me like multiple times.
It's so weird when a knee surgeon
But that's not even the whole story. That's not the whole story.
So I go to the gynecologist office by mistake. And I go in and they say, you need to sign in, and I sign in and I go sit down and I'm looking around and there's just, some women over there and some women over there, and they got knees too. And so then I'm looking at the magazines and I'm like, I don't like any of these magazines. And,
to be fair, I don't like any of the magazines that are there either. They're all like mom and parenting. Yeah. I'm like, some women can't have children.
Well, then they call me up there and they say, what did they say? I can't remember. Were you here to see?
No,
it was something, and then I went and sat back down again.
They said, Mr. Barrett, are you sure you have an appointment here?
Yeah.
And you said,
it's like, yeah.
Yes.
I'm positive I have an appointment in this corner office. I remember. Okay. And then they call me up again. Now, this is something gynecology, and I'm like, what? What happened to my knee doctor?
It's not.
What have you done with my knee doctor? And they were like, he's upstairs or something.
One floor up, Mr. Barry.
Okay. I see how they did me.
Yeah. So I feel like we buried the punchline, though. We should have just done like a whole.
That's because we backed into it anyway. But that's one of my most embarrassing stories.
All that to say that people do walk into the wrong door and sit down and get comfy sometimes. So if you're one of those people, welcome.
Get comfy. Get comfy. Your exam's coming up.
You've now signed in.
Put your feet in the stirrups. All right, let's get you updated on the latest in Restoring Hope.
What's been
the big news is that we have a roof on the main house and a roof on the L, and we are so excited.
Not just like a structure.
Not just a structure, but decking,
all the
shingles,
way.
And all that kind of stuff that keeps that moisture that comes out of the sky.
That whole part that was missing, we have it now. That's a big deal.
Yes, that part that burned in that fire that one time.
It's back.
Yeah. So if you're new here, there was a fire. I'm not going to
Go back and watch.
Go back and watch the old ones. But that's very exciting, and we just have some holes in siding, and we're in the dry, as
I think we should talk about Mark a little bit. We had been looking for a roofer, and in Natchez, being a small community, there's like one guy who does everything, right? You've got your one roofer and your one.
Yeah.
There's two heating and air companies that also do plumbing and wiring. They're it. Like they're it. And then there's like your one roofer and your one siding guy and your one flooring. There's literally one flooring guy. And we were lucky enough to find a young man out of Louisiana, just right over the bridge, who came in and was like, hey, I really want to start working in Natchez. And I really would love to start working on historic properties. Not only would I love to work with you on this roof, but I would love for you to teach me what I need to know about working on historic properties. His name's Mark Rice. So if you're one of our friends who's in Natchez and you're being faced with the, hey, you got to get your asbestos roof off because we're not going to insure that anymore, we cannot recommend Mark highly enough at Allied Roofing. He did a remarkable job. There have been a couple issues with the roof. They're not Mark issues, but he came back on yesterday with me to walk it, to look at it and say, okay, while these are not my issues, I will do whatever I can to help fix these. And once these are fixed, I will come back immediately and do what I need to do to fix whatever gets broken in the fixing.
What you want to hear, right?
I mean, 2 thumbs way up for Mark Rice, Allied Roofing. So if you need a phone number, let us know.
Yes.
Quick. 2 days for the main
2
house?
days for both of them, really. 2 or 3 days.
Like
decking, shingles, flashing, everything.
Worked at night, worked in the rain, which I was like, get off the roof, it's raining. And those guys were like, nope, we're getting it done.
These aren't even sloped.
Yeah. So it was huge. And so then you weren't there. We came home and you weren't there when the main house roof got done, and I had to go back. My very dear friend, those of you who came to the Restoring Hope weekend, Laura was one of your bus docents, and she had a big weekend this weekend, a big event. Her flower show was this weekend. She's chaired this event. She's worked on it all year. So I went back to help her. So I got to go in and see Hope now that her roof is done. I
mean, it's got to be weird, huh? Not to look up and see clouds.
It was weird. But I was, did I tell you this? I was like
amazed at how big the rooms are. Is that what you're gonna say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pleasantly surprised, because you know how you would think that without a lid on the can, if you're standing in the can, it's going to feel huge, and then suddenly you put a lid on it and all of a sudden it's like claustrophobic. Those rooms feel, well, they are huge. The 2 main rooms are like 20 by 22. They're big, but it feels spacious. And maybe now because there's a roof on it, you're like conscious of the
actual space.
Space.
Well, we got 12-foot ceilings, which is nice. So yeah, I'm so excited. I cannot wait.
Yeah, it's like we're at the part now. So last week I had somebody make the comment to me, I mean, we're used to seeing y'all get in there and get dirty and work. Are we not going to see that on this house? And I looked at her and said, I can't build a roof.
Yeah.
But we're to the point now where we're like, there are things I can get in there and do. And I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, we're going to have hopefully some more time too to get in there and actually do some work and start framing out some rooms. We've only got a few little frame out to do.
Especially in the main house, very little. That's something else.
Closets, really.
I was going to talk about. There are some people in Natchez, of course. Miss Ethel had a big social group in her age demographic, her peer group. And for some of those people, it's been really hard to come back to Hope Farm and to see Hope Farm, understandably. I mean, you lose a dear friend in a tragedy like that. That's hard. But I was able to share with them this weekend that we are making so many changes. We're taking it back to its original footprint.
So it's a little different than when Ethel lived in it.
So when those people who were so accustomed to that yellow house on the hill with the little rooms in the back being Ethel's home, when they come back, I think it will feel like a completely different place.
Well, I mean, it's actually I would think the parlor and the dining room are going to look real similar.
They are. It's the mailman. Should we wait for the mailman?
Yeah, let's wait for the mailman.
All right. I got the mail.
Got the mail, and that's what our mail is. It's boxes, usually, right?
This is from East Nottingham Antiques, my friend.
Look at the beautiful
Jeffrey,
handwriting.
I know, and this is a guy. Look at his beautiful handwriting, Jeffrey Ricketts.
He's fancy.
He has the most wonderful early American stuff because he's up in early American land up there in Maryland, where all the good early American stuff is from. So we'll show you what that is since you were here when it got delivered. So let's go back to the house. So some other major exciting developments.
It's kind of a big deal. When a house has looked one way for how long you think it's been?
Well, since 1926.
Sunshine yellow on the front porch.
Well, she told me the earliest application of that color is an oil base from right around the turn of the century.
Wow.
So probably 26 when Catherine moved in
and decided she wanted a yeller house.
She wanted a yeller house because I'm sure by the time she moved in 26 it was no color at all. But we had microscopy done. My friend Brooke Russell, who is a conservator who does microscopy paint analysis, came and did the paint analysis for the front of Hope Farm because that color yellow is just not a period appropriate color at all, like for any of the periods really of the house.
Brooke is going to school us real quick.
Well, I'll try to. So what I'm thinking here, I started picking up the paint. We love this modern elastomeric paint on historic materials. It's super good.
You can literally just like
peel
peel it off
like
it's a balloon on
right.
the house.
But it's facilitating and holding my samples together.
There you go.
Good.
So what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing what we like to call is like an integral color. So integral obviously means that it's inside. So it's a parging that is, my mom and I think, Bermuda pink, which makes sense, French, it being French, and
Caribbean pink.
or Caribbean pink. It's a very soft, warm pink. It's not pretty princess pink. And then what we've got a lime wash on top here, which when you put UV on it, I mean, you're not going to see it here, but it is really, really bright. And then you have your, you can see it fluorescent.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can see it in the video. Can you see it in the video how it's fluorescing?
Yeah.
So that's the lime coming through. And so it looks like you've got some kind of pigmented lime wash. It could be a degraded oil paint. It's really hard to tell, because, well, it's exterior and everything. And then it's chalky, so, because oil paint can get super chalky outside. And then you have another generation that is similar in tone. I'm trying to figure out what this is.
No, what?
Like,
Over there?
like, is that marbling? Is it, is it a grout line that's bled out because of the lovely elastomeric paint holding in all the moisture? So the pigments came through. We just don't know, but it's a nice kind of ochre yellow. And then, and then this is obviously they use lime plaster to fill the crack.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm just trying like expand this little reveal here so you can see the different generations. But there's not a lot on the surface here, which is
I didn't think
really
so either.
great.
When I
Yeah.
tried to take the samples for
Because
you,
you
and I
can
was
still
like,
see the
there's like
detail.
2 layers
I know.
cover on this. This is
I know.
insane.
Well, also because like in this this environment is so good for lime wash.
Good.
I mean, it's really like what lime, because it's breathable, it's water resistant, it's alkali stable because it's alkaline, and so it's just exactly what you would want.
That's what's going to go back on it once we get all the plastic off the top
Right,
of it.
exactly. So, but it's just like if you look at the grout line. So I thought, oh, well, maybe sometimes what they would do is when they score the grout lines, they would do like another color to really to pick out the grout line. But I'm not finding that yet.
Okay.
But the grout lines aren't cooperating with me right now.
Of
They're
course.
just kind of falling apart. But that's good because they're giving me volunteer samples. So once we get those embedded in resin, I'll get it into cross section. Probably do some pigment dispersions, which is where I look at pigments. It's they're smushed across the surface, and then you look at them in polarized light, cross polarized light, and the way that they react in that environment, in that form of a microscope. The characteristics come out, and you look at them, at 800x. So you're really seeing the pigments.
So we'll be able to
themselves.
see if there was whites or
Like
some-
lime wash, exactly, or like what kind
lead
of
white
pigments
or
they use.
anything in there.
Yeah, because like I think I found, blue verditer at Auburn.
Yeah.
But I'm not an expert in that yet, so we've been getting a lot of help from our friends at Colonial Williamsburg, who've been amazing and helping me understand what's going on.
This is thrilling. It's not that I don't like the yellow. It just doesn't feel right for the house.
It's like a version of what people. It's like one of those typical paint colors where you have like the green shutters, the white, and the yellow, and it's like what people imagine things look like. And then like how like the Colonial Williamsburg fallacy, where people were like these muted tones and soft colors, and it was just actually like so vibrant,
So intense. I love it.
so intense. So it's somebody's idea.
Yeah.
But then what it's coming out to be is actually this really beautiful.
was very popular in the 1830s.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
That is true.
And we do know, so of course, what we're looking at here is literally the oldest part of the house. So you're at the 1780 part of the house. And then we know that it got a facelift in the 1830s, and it got a facelift in the 1850s. So I'm feeling like the actual block story probably came in the 1850s, because that's when it just like went crazy. Your 40s and 50s,
Right.
so popular
Yeah, the big
here,
boom.
and everybody put actual block on everything. So what, with the Greek revival details, that's all 1850s edition. But I really want as much. We're doing a very 1800, like literally 1800 inside. And she discovered that probably when the house was redone in its it got an 1840s, 50s Greek Revival trendy facelift with its door surrounds and its fireplace, everything in the 1840s or 50s. It was a different color. Do you want to tell them all about what colors it was?
Pink.
You said you weren't going to use that word. I
I
thought
know.
you might go with sandstone.
Well, I think that it's a marble, and it's kind of a reddish yellowish color, kind of a sandstone color, right?
Well, it looked like originally it was faux marbled ashlar block to look like Tennessee granite, which is a fleshy,
Is it a mauve?
Caucasian-y, fleshy, blushy color. Which was an incredibly popular color. So the largest Greek Revival home that was ever built in the South, it was a home called Bell Grove. Largest, most ornate. It was so big that it had a jail cell in it. Okay, it was unbelievably huge.
Small town.
It was painted bright pink. So it was a very popular color, and we're going to be returning the exterior to that color. And we have some pictures. There's one kind of up the street.
That's
and around
got
the
the
corner.
faux marble on the front, and it's got really good variances between each
Yeah.
of the scored ashlar block or the scored marble, I guess.
Well, it should look like a bunch of different stones. It shouldn't look like
Right.
one. There's another one in
Right.
town, and I'm not going to say what it is, and it's nobody's personal residence, so I'm not going to hurt anybody's feelings, I don't think. But it's been faux marble on the exterior, but they ran the veining so that it looks like
It's
it
all
looks like
one
it's
piece of
all
marble.
one piece of marble
Yeah.
in chunks.
And that's not the case.
No. So I'm really excited. So for those people for whom this place is painful to come and to be and to see, I think that there'll be some really positive changes that'll make it.
It'll look different enough.
Yeah, it'll look like a different place.
Well, it will be ours, and it will be a little more true to the original build.
Yeah.
Or, well, not the original build,
No,
but the
it's an earlier incarnation of
Yes, there you
itself.
go. There you go.
Now, the interior floor plan will be the final, it's going to be laid out in its final 1820s. We think that's the latest interior build add-on, we think. It will be in that floor plan. We're just going to do the exterior because it was so, they gave this little humble farmhouse as much of a Greek Revival fancy update as they could.
Yes. They did their best to make it
And I
Greek
love
revival.
that. I love that. Makes me feel, don't you think it's much more for us? This isn't true for everyone, but for me, I feel like we can actually live there as opposed to feeling like just like this where we live
Museum
in this
house.
museum house. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what I had to kind of start thinking about it as. This is a farmhouse.
Farmhouse.
This is not
Although you do
a
have to-
fancy mansion, and it's not
Yeah.
Auburn.
I do want to be clear because a lot of people are going to. Somebody the other day posted on one of our restoration videos. That's a plantation. No, it never was. When Hope Farm, we may have talked about this when Hope Farm was first built. The property was first purchased, not even when the house was built. When the property was first purchased in 1723, it was a tobacco farm. One could say plantation, except the man who bought the land, he bought it from indigenous people who were already farming tobacco on it, and he worked cooperatively with them to farm tobacco, indigo, and sugar. But it was never a chattel slavery plantation ever. And then the next owners were tavern owners. So their home was on one end of the property and their tavern was on the other. And then the next owner was the mayor of Natchez. So never, ever, ever, ever does this house in particular have any real connection to chattel slavery, either directly or really even indirectly. A lot of houses have indirect relation because even though they weren't themselves homes sitting on a plantation, the money for them was
From their plantations
From
across
their-
the river or wherever. they
out of
were.
sight, out of mind, what was going on. But
Right.
Hope Farm just sort of doesn't have that specter looming over it. I think like some other properties can and do.
But it was a farm.
Yes.
Yes, we hope
Well,
to grow something
for a
there.
very brief period of time, and
Well,
it's
but the name
300-year
stuck. That's
history.
for
I know.
sure. That's crazy.
I love that.
I do too.
Which to me means, honestly, truly, because by the time it's recorded as a farm, it's owned by a tavern keeper. It's owned by a tavern owner. He's not a farmer. And the guy before him wasn't a farmer. So I really think that name has to be original.
Sure.
Anyway, on to the next thing about the house.
On to the next thing. Well, so we've got the roof, and we're very excited about that. Another thing that there had kind of been a mystery to us for a long time was the cistern at the end of the L, because it was so overgrown that we couldn't really even tell what it was. We thought possibly a cold cellar or some kind of a...
Yeah, well, when we found the halves early on when we bought Hope Farm, there was just this like mound. It was just a mound of overgrowth. You could tell there was probably something there, but what? Who knows? It was just this mound of green. But then I found the halves, and I could see that it was the cistern and the pump, but it was so overgrown. But then what happened, Kevin?
We started looking at that back room and noticed we've got a problem in the floor. The floor appears to be sinking. And we couldn't exactly remember how much it was down when we bought it.
I could.
But it felt
knew.
like it was sinking, right?
I knew that
2 or 3 inches.
I knew that when we bought it, the brick floor was flat.
Oh, was it good?
Yeah, I have been watching this happen for months.
Yeah, I don't know
And then I walked in
why
there,
all of a sudden.
Because think about it, baby, because of all the water from putting the fire out. So that the bricks just sit on the mud floor, and all that water just went right, because there's no mortar between them. They're just sitting on the dirt.
Yeah.
And so
weakened that dirt enough that it started sagging where the cistern runs under the house there. Well, the bottom room in the L has a brick floor.
It was the original kitchen.
And it has a brick floor, and it's not, it's not mortared in there. It's just loose on dirt, basically.
Yeah.
And so we began to notice that floor was giving away a little bit. Just dropping
in one spot.
In one spot, 2 or 3 or 4 inches.
And it kept getting worse.
It was becoming a problem. So as we start to explore the cistern at the end of the house and finally get all of the growth off of that and get it open, we can see that the cistern actually comes under the house a little bit right there. So that's got to be dealt with. That is a problem.
We think what happened, why it became such a problem so quickly. My suspicion is that when they were dumping the 50 million gallons of water on the house to put the fire out, that brick mud floor, it allowed the water to go through the floor,
loosen everything.
and just loosen everything up, and possibly even wash out more of that. Or I'm surprised, I gotta tell you, I was very surprised when we opened the cistern that there wasn't standing water in it.
It wasn't full of water.
That
it
wasn't. So all I can assume is that it like washed out some more of the mud and then just like slowly sunk, reabsorbed, because it has been a year since, and there's a cover on the cistern, so it's not getting rainwater. So, but I do think we got a lot of washout. So now
we have to fill the cistern with something. We're looking for
Dr.
the
Jim
right,
has suggested crushed limestone, like almost powderized
like sand, but
limestone, because once it gets wet, then it like turns into concrete. And to fill it with concrete, do y'all know how expensive it would be to fill that with concrete?
It's huge.
I could put a swimming pool in.
We have to fill all of that and then fix the floor in there.
Then reset the floor.
But we also talked to Carter, and there used to be, from the halves, there used to be a milk house on the back corner.
Yeah.
And so we are going to put a new structure there, and there was actually a door there as well. So we're going to put the door back, and the door will go into the milk house, which will be the bathroom for that room.
So that room will become a guest room. I really wanted that room to be a guest room as well. I'm trying not to have, when Miss Ethel had the house, she had a couple of museum rooms, and that's fantastic. It was just her. She wanted to live with a couple of museum rooms. I don't want any rooms that we're not using. We've had a lot of houses where we had a lot of rooms that we weren't using, and I want this house to be lived in every room.
Well, that's why I'm really glad that we took that room and we're going to make it our studio.
Yeah. That's
because
very
we
exciting.
will use that daily, and it's a beautiful space. But we are going to have one room still downstairs that we're dedicating to, more than just a museum room. It's actually going to have displays.
Right.
So it will be a museum.
About the house and about Catherine Miller and the pilgrimage. We have so many wonderful documents. We have the portrait, of course. So much pilgrimage history that we don't want to fill the main house, because I could fill the main house.
We have so much.
So we just decided that this one room would be an absolutely fantastic little Catherine Miller pilgrimage history museum space.
Yeah.
Yeah, that everybody will be able to enjoy when you come see us at Hope Farm.
If you've been in Hope Farm before, they called it the Williamsburg room.
Yeah,
right?
it was the blue room. It's going to stay that color. It'll still look very similar, but just with display cabinets instead of furniture. Let's talk about some exciting news that we got for when we're done. Speaking of furniture.
Oh, yes. So we got a call from Carter at the Historic Natchez Foundation. And right after the fires, they came in immediately and started salvaging everything they could, taking things out of the house that had been broken or burned and storing those in a safe place so that, they can either use them or donate them back. And he called us and said, we're going to donate back the furniture from the parlor and from the dining room. Some other, the bell we're getting back. I'm excited about getting the bell, and then some other outdoor furniture, right?
Yes, which is we expected nothing. We knew the family had donated all of the furniture to the H&F. And that was great. Put it on display, that's wonderful. I had very humbly asked that if they were thinking of giving anything back to the house, not to us, to the house. These are things that will stay with the house once we're gone. But by gone, I mean dead. I don't mean moved. Don't anybody go like, I told you they were moving. Dead and buried in the backyard. They'll stay with the house. I had asked, could we possibly have the dining room table? Because it was Catherine's dining room table, then it was Ethel's dining room table. 100 years worth of history in the house have happened on that dining room table. Like Eleanor Roosevelt was served a luncheon from that table. So it feels important to have that back, and that's all I had hoped for. And they called and gave us this list of things that they were going to return, and I was so excited about the outdoor iron furniture. I know that's so silly, but we have this incredible bench that I bought at an auction years ago, and I just bought one, and I've always been sad that I only have one. And when I saw Carter let me see some things that they have from Hope Farm, and I noticed that there were 2 iron benches that matched the one that we have. I didn't mention it. I didn't say to Carter, oh, I have one that matches that. I just saw it, and in my brain thought, oh, look, they match the one I have. I would love to have those. And then we're going to get those back. So that's really exciting for me.
Oh, yeah. So it makes you want to get to the finish line even faster.
Oh, boy, does it.
But the plan is still for us to move into the cottage before we move into the main house. So we're trying to finish the cottage, but we're striving.
I like striving.
Striving is striving to try.
We're striving and trying. I love that. That's a new word. Striving.
We're trying to finish the cottage. We're getting closer. We're so close right now.
And we weren't going to show you anything about the cottage. Look, this is my fault. Everybody's asking, how's the cottage? How's the cottage? How's the cottage? Who cares that you put a roof on a house that was a 300-year-old house that burned? I don't care about that. I want to know about that nasty old war cottage. They want to see the finished spaces. And so we were going to save the cottage to be like one single video, but you keep asking about it. So here is the status of the cottage. This is what it looks like right now. We're so close to being able to show you a finished cottage.
Speaking of when Brooke came, she actually came for the Restoring Hope weekend. So if you didn't come to the Restoring Hope weekend, you missed out. We had about 100 people come from 27, 29 states all around the country and had the best time. Our first problem, and the whole time I was like, we got to have contingency plans, because we're talking about having a picnic.
Every day.
Contingency plans. And you were like, let's not borrow that trouble yet. Let's wait and see what the weather's going to be. And so as we got closer, we were like, well, we better come up with contingency plans, because as beautiful as it's been for 2 weeks, it's supposed to rain all weekend. And then it's supposed to be beautiful right after everybody
leaves. It was beautiful up until? Yeah. And beautiful right after everyone left. And it poured rain all weekend.
But we did successfully dodge the raindrops by moving 2 or 3 things around.
And I think we have to thank Catherine and Everett Ratcliffe.
They would get the biggest thing.
They really do, because we went from having a picnic on their grounds on a day when they were not on tour to hosting 100 people in their home on a day that they were on tour. Catherine was so great. She was like, sure.
They're so easygoing.
Oh my God, everybody in that just so easygoing. And,
yes.
And so
Everett was walking around going, what are you, sit in the chairs, what are you doing? Don't sit on the floor, sit in the chairs. And everybody's like, I didn't want to sit on your antique chairs, you know.
We saw him at church
everybody
the
was
next
so
Sunday.
nice.
The next Sunday he was like, why would the people not sit in my chairs?
Because they didn't want to
They didn't
hurt
wanna hurt your
anything.
chairs.
Our people were so sweet. And so, but by doing that, because that's the day it poured down rain. I mean,
like our buses were
poured.
stopped. Apparently, I didn't know this. Did you know this? If it rains at a certain, like, there's a certain amount of wind and rain, a school bus like isn't supposed to travel.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know that, but I found out that day when I was sitting on the bus and
Really?
it was blowing and windy, and she was like, I can't
These aren't kids though.
move.
Go ahead.
Right? That's what I wanted to say. We've seen Rome. We can die. It's fine. You know, move ahead. But we had like a 30-minute interruption in our bus schedule, but everybody was so chill about the
I mean,
dodging and weaving.
Mostly it still went on fine. You know, we were in houses, touring inside of houses.
Yeah.
People had umbrellas and they had their little ponchos that we gave
Everybody
them.
got a poncho. They were good.
And except for one time when it was it was like raining so hard that, you just want to pull your car over and wait it out.
It was unbelievable.
That's how bad it
unbelievable.
was. And we were at one house and I was trying to shuttle people from the house to the bus, and that was not going that well.
And that was the time. I'm gonna say this. That was the time that we're trying to shuttle people to a bus. We can't. That's when we couldn't move. That's when I called you and the bus driver said I cannot take off. And I had another house call me and say, your people have been sitting on my back porch for like 20 minutes. You need to come get them.
Well.
And we were like, well, first of all, 81 of our people toured your home.
Yeah.
So I think you can let them sit there for 15 minutes until we can safely come and pick them up. That was I think that.
We don't want them to have to swim.
Yeah. And we greatly expanded the whole experience this time. Greatly.
And next time we may pull it back.
Yeah, I think definitely. But overall, I think it went pretty well.
It was great. So let's talk about some of the things that we did. We did have picnics every day, which were great. So one day we did a cemetery. Well, we didn't have the picnic at the cemetery. We were going to, but then the rain caused problems there. But we had a tour of a private cemetery, the Bruth Cemetery.
Yes. Joe Bruth, who's one of the founders of Natchez, is buried there and is pretty much the father of all of the grand homes of Natchez. His children and grandchildren went on to build all of the homes that you will come and see on tour.
And I got to play him.
Well, hello, friends. My name is Joe Bruth. Welcome to my cemetery. This is a picture of me when I was alive. And it's been a couple hundred years since I've talked about myself, so I wrote down some notes so I would remember to get it straight.
And I was amazing though, right?
I was shocked. I'll say that.
No. Come on. But we had characters act out the lives or pretend to be the people buried there, and that was fun for everyone. Everybody loved it.
That was one of the two favorite events. There were two favorite events.
Right. That was
by and large.
And we have to thank Ruthie and Jim again
Yes.
For getting us into that private cemetery.
They got us. Of course, they're the caretakers of the cemetery. So not only did they let us in, but they helped us with the history of all those who are buried there. Jim acted as the guide in the cemetery to kind of help get everybody shuffled from one head. It's not a huge cemetery, so you have to herd these cats, 100 cats from headstone to headstone. And then I got to where, I'm going to say this. I hadn't even thought about this, but pilgrimage used to always be done, and it is still in a few of the homes, in period costume to the date of the home. And so there are a lot of these family heirloom period costumes, and Ruthie let me borrow one of her family heirloom period costumes, so I got to wear this beautiful gown that was from her family.
Carlo, as you can imagine, I don't receive very often these days. I heard that you had a chance to meet my grandfather, Joe Bruth, just a moment ago. Don't mind him, please. He has a touch of the dementia and can't remember anything. Since there doesn't seem to be anybody here to introduce us properly, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sarah Ann Ellis Dorsey. I was born right here in Natchez, Mississippi in 1829. I think some of you may have visited the place where I was born earlier this week. I was born at Richmond. Did some of you see my home? Yes. Fabulous. Isn't it a lovely place?
I put that on, almost cried a little bit because it was like really, you know how special this is. Like this is a family heirloom.
So was it 1880s?
No. This is what it was. So that's a reproduction that her family had made early pilgrimage years, and that material was from her family's department store downtown.
Oh, wow.
And if you notice, Marcia's dress at Lansdowne is the same material in a different color.
Oh, really?
So it was just that was very special, and I got to be Sarah Dorsey, one of the people who's buried there. Fascinating, brilliant intellect of a woman, artist, painter, author. She authored 6 books. And she's buried there, so that was really fun.
And Tammy and Westpac also played Susanna Miller Scott and John Scott.
Welcome to all of you. My name is Susanna Miller Scott. I was born in 1772 in America. But as it would happen, when I was still a baby, my parents decided to move out here to the Spanish territory in western Florida. And I'm so glad they did, because I got to be raised on the frontier, on the wild west of the day on the Mississippi River, and I wouldn't take for it. John, is that you? I had no idea you were going to make this appearance. I've been here talking about you.
Oh, Susanna, my last. Oh, it's been so long.
It has been so long.
So long.
So long, my brother. So long.
I'm tired of it.
And you know, John, I've been telling these fine people about your wonderful life and what a great man you were. And honestly, talking about our great life together has made me a little sad. But you know, the only thing that kind of cheers me up when I think about that.
Can they see me?
Can you? I'm not sure. Okay, they can.
That was one of, asking around. People really enjoyed the
And we
cemetery
kept it
tour.
a big secret. Like
Yeah, we
nobody,
didn't tell
we
anybody
told them
what
it was
was
going to be
happening.
a cemetery tour. They had no idea that they were going to come in and like meet the people who were buried there.
Yes,
So that,
and if you
and a lot
haven't-
of people didn't come. I feel bad because now I feel like I
no.
should have given people more. Like, you don't want to miss this. This is going to be really neat. I wanted it to be like such a secret that I think I didn't. I mean, we still had.
We didn't let them know
We
something
still
was
had, I
happening
think,
enough.
60-something people came to the cemetery.
Oh,
But a lot of people were like, "Oh, I don't care about a cemetery. I'm gonna rest."
Right.
And then they didn't know, and they didn't get to come.
shoot. I didn't even think
So-
about that until now.
I know. I've had people tell me, "I didn't know. I'm so sad. I didn't know."
Well, we'll have to do something again. We did a progressive dinner, and we started at Holly Hedges, and then we went to Linden. So we have to thank Marjorie and David
Yes,
for
Phillips Hawkins.
for their hospitality. We had our main course there, and then we had dessert.
You
at
brushed over
Sunnyside.
Holly Hedges. We should probably say Tammy and Westpac specifically. They own Holly Hedges, and they open their home for people to come in for canapes and cocktails. So thank you to them. Marjorie and David, like you said, and then did you say Colleen Wilkins?
No, I
miss it?
didn't, but I
Okay.
said Sunnyside. But so Colleen.
Colleen Wilkins, and boy, let me tell you what, she rolled out the red carpet. She had people in costume. She had a man in costume as the original builder of Sunnyside, who was a Methodist minister, greeting his guests at the
It
door.
was fantastic.
Had her famous strawberry cake, but then the highlight of the night and of the weekend, I think.
Was when our mayor, Dan Gibson, played the piano and sang in her beautiful, huge back room.
Yep.
And we just had a sing along, and it was incredible. I
Yeah.
mean, we had so much fun.
Suddenly appear every time you are here, just like me, belong to me, close to you.
People were so into it. I don't think anybody wanted the night to end.
No, definitely not. I finally had to say, okay, 5 more minutes, like
Yeah.
kids at bedtime. Okay, 5 more minutes.
Yeah, 5 more minutes to get one more song in. Okay, 3 more songs.
Yeah.
Basically, right?
Yes.
And I think he was having a great time too. Marla came over.
His wife,
His
the first
wife,
lady of
Marla,
Natchez.
First Lady of Natchez. And so that was an amazing time. Am I missing anything before our final party that we did? We had breakfast every day from the wonderful Wayne
At the carriage
Canon
house.
Bryant.
I mean,
at the carriage house.
Bryant Canon.
Bryant Canon. Wayne Bryant Canon. He's got too many names for me to remember.
Who just always takes such good care of me. I mean, I know you get tired of hearing me thank Wayne, but thank you, Wayne. He's become like a brother. He's so dear to me, and took such good care of us. His plate was so full that weekend, and he just made sure we were taken care of all weekend. So we had breakfast every day from him, lunch every day from him, and he did the meals for all of our big evening events. I mean, he was phenomenal.
I guess we had a picnic at Hope Farm also, and gave him a
how
tour.
could you forget that?
Well, I mean, we're just talking about Hope Farm, but and so everybody got a tour of the progress so far. How festive! Show us your pretty shirt.
What?
Show us your shirt.
My shirt? Restore that hope, baby.
Yeah, baby.
Let me get comfortable and then get abandoned by my house.
So I think, a lot of people were very happy to see how far it had come.
Yeah.
And then the final night was actually St. Patrick's Day on Sunday. And we had a St. Patrick's Day party at Auburn. And man, I thought that was so much fun.
It was.
We had a hunt for prizes, and everybody got a prize. And one lucky person won a free weekend next time we do it.
Yep. And then we had our big grand finale party. It was bittersweet. The weekend was over.
I know, I always hate saying goodbye, but then the next day we slept for like 24 hours.
Oh my gosh.
We were so tired.
I've never been so tired.
I don't
I
think I
thought
have
there was
either. I don't
something
know.
wrong with me.
I don't know.
Like I was that tired.
I think maybe I'm just getting old, but it about killed us.
Well, we are getting old.
We are getting older.
As I was reminded by posting young pictures of us on Instagram today.
Who is that? No. Who is that person?
But then you would think to be like, okay, but we went to bed and we slept for a week. No, we did not.
Slept for a day.
A day, because then we had to get right back up.
Then we went to Alabama, where
Wilcox
we had
County, Alabama.
Where I love all the announcements were. And you will hear Lane and Kevin Berry speak. That's like most of them are like,
yeah.
Lane and Kevin Berry are coming to speak. Oh, good. And I never speak.
Yeah, I was gonna say, tell them why you're laughing. Tell them why
I
that's
do
funny.
not speak. I am so bad at it. I hate it. I get so nervous. Like, I could maybe introduce her, but I do the PowerPoint presentation with her guidance, and I set up the projector and everything.
Lane and Kevin Berry are coming to give a presentation. It's probably how we should say it.
Yeah,
because Kevin
there you go. Because I do
does all the technical side.
I do participate in it.
Then I do
all the words.
Is there anything worse, really, than having to send someone along and braggadocious introduction about yourself? I started to say to Lance, just right, she's not the Countess of Carnarvon. That's all anybody wants to know. She's not, but she is very much heavily involved in preservation, restoration, and rehabilitation. Before we get started tonight, I have two pieces of news for you. One of them is very, very bad, and then one of them is very, very good. The bad news is that I am the daughter of a very long-winded Southern Baptist minister, and this apple did not fall far from that tree. The good news is that I have on extraordinarily uncomfortable shoes, so it is a limited amount of time that I can stand here and speak to you tonight.
That's why I laughed about him portraying Joe Bruth, because he practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced, and then he forgot one word and it was all over.
On this map of my estate, is that the right map?
That's your land, my friend.
Thank you, sir. I've been dead a long time.
He's still half dead.
It was all over. And he's not, I was trained in the theater, so I know that even if you screw up, just keep going, because none of those people knew if anything was wrong.
Oh, well.
But then he just like broke character, and it just spiraled out of control.
If I hadn't done it that way, it wouldn't have been me. So.
I think you probably were people's favorite, truly.
Well, hey, if they like an oddball that can't remember things,
I obviously
then
do.
that's then that is enjoyable, right?
Right.
So anyway.
Anyway, back to Wilcox County.
Yeah, so we went to Wilcox County where they have an amazing pilgrimage. It's done so differently than we're used to.
But so
But
brilliantly.
yeah, so much
So
fun. I mean,
brilliantly.
they kick it off with they have this enormous tent and a band and food. And did they have like an auction or anything that
No,
night?
just a speaker.
Okay, just a speaker. So everybody comes, and there were like 900 people there.
Well, that night there were 400 people.
Oh, 400 people.
Because it's
there.
a special event, you buy a ticket
Okay.
just for that. And there were like 389 people, I think is what
Oh, okay.
my friend Lance told me it was like the final count. Full house, not an empty chair in
Oh,
the
yeah.
space.
It was packed.
And then the next day starts the tour of homes. Now, Wilcox County, Alabama is one of the most remote places. It
It's
is
really
30
remote.
minutes to the Piggly Wiggly. Our house that we stayed in was 30 minutes away from the venue that I was at which I was going to speak. I mean, it was
Which was not a like venue. It was somebody's
it
house.
was a house. And to tour the houses, you might drive 30 minutes to get to your next house. But that morning at breakfast when they were selling tickets for people to do the house tours, there were 960 people who came through.
Yeah, an amazing event. Beautiful houses.
I'm still
so well
agog.
done.
Hey, I haven't told you this. Lance told me that they want me to come back for 2025.
They want you to come speak again?
That's what Lance told me like last night.
Hey, we're down.
I'm down. I'm so
That was
there.
so much fun.
I already have ideas about what to talk about next year.
He wants you to come back because you spent thousands of dollars
and I will
buying
again next year.
antiques at his antique store, and you probably will again next year. Yeah, he's like, man, I got a sucker right here. I'll invite her, she'll speak, and then she'll spend all the money.
I already decided. I mean, they're going to talk about apocryphal architecture, or fashion developments through time, or architectural terms through history and what is and what isn't. I mean, I've got so many topics. I'm so ready. I'm so ready, Lance.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
But that was an amazing event. Really, really fun. Really well done. I wish I could take that band around with me everywhere.
They were awesome.
Actually, I wish I could form
They were
my own band.
I really think Lance told me they were out of New York. Like,
Really?
these people spared no expense.
Yes, it was so nice.
The porta potties they got. Okay, I'm just gonna talk about this because Lance was proud of them and he
The
should
porta
be.
potties?
They looked like a paneled. I can't even describe
Like the
it
Rolls
to you.
Royce of porta potties.
Yes, it was like a paneled room. I didn't even know these existed. I didn't even know they
Did you go
existed.
use one?
I saw them. I did not go
Yes,
use them because
I
I have a
remember.
very firm rule against porta potties of any kind. But if I would have.
A lot of people do. That's why they got the nice ones.
I would have. And everything was executed at this level that was just like it was overwhelmingly amazing. It was breathtaking
So-
in every way.
Comfortable and fun, and I think everyone really loves seeing the houses. And obviously, I mean, they've been doing. I don't know if this gets bigger every year or if they've got it the size they want it.
Well, last
But-
year the keynote speaker was the Duchess of Carnarvon.
There you
or the
go.
Countess of Carnarvon.
Yeah.
That's who I got to follow.
And this year it was the Queen of Restoration.
I did have a lot of people tell me they like me a whole lot better than the Countess of Carnarvon, though. so
Well,
I was
who
like,
doesn't? Come on. I
Thank
don't even know
you.
who that
Apparently,
Countess
she
is.
wanted to talk a lot about her sheep.
Sheep. I do like sheep.
I do like sheep.
So on the way back from Alabama,
Alabama,
where did we go in Alabama? Camden?
Camden, Alabama, and I discovered that Monroeville is 1 hour on the way. It was on the way home from Camden, Alabama. Now, if you don't know,
Uh-oh. About to say we can't be friends.
wait, that's coming.
That's coming.
If you don't know who grew up in Monroeville and what Monroeville is the model for, Monroeville, Alabama, we cannot be friends.
Well, that's a little harsh.
Do you think it's obscure?
I think so. You got to go to a little more information than that.
Monroeville is the hometown of Harper Lee. Nell Harper Lee, author of To Kill a Mockingbird, and Monroeville is Macomb County. Macomb, Alabama, in her book, is Monroeville, to the point where the courthouse that stands in Monroeville today, the director for To Kill a Mockingbird, the set designer, came and measured it, spent days measuring it and recreated it exactly for the film. They initially wanted to film To Kill a Mockingbird in Monroeville, but it had changed so much by the 1960s, and they're trying to do the 1930s, that they just thought it would be easier to do it on a soundstage in Hollywood. But they completely rebuilt and recreated that actual courthouse. And of course, Atticus is based on her father. I've always said that I was raised by Atticus Finch, but she was literally raised by Atticus Finch. And her father tried a court case, not exactly like the Tom Robinson case, but one similar to that really opened her eyes to the civil rights issues. And so my best friend of 35 years asked me, was going to Monroeville, did it feel like a holy place? And I said, absolutely. It was a spiritual experience for me. We went and visited her grave, the grave of her father, mother, and sister Alice Finchley. So yeah, that was a big deal for me.
Sure.
Oh, we didn't even talk about who was at our event. We didn't even know
Oh,
who was
right.
at the Restoring Hope weekend,
Well,
I didn't even know.
I sat and talked to her for a long time.
Cathy McCoy. So this delightful woman who told me her last name was, she was like, I'm a McCoy. You were, because my maiden name was Hatfield. Anyway, and we talked, and she was delightful all weekend long. The last night we're there, St. Patrick's Day party. What did we discover, Kevin?
That she was the director of the play
Yes.
To Kill a Mockingbird that they put on every year until recently. Did they?
No, they're
stop
still doing it.
They're still doing it.
Every spring.
Yeah, well, I sat next to her at Bon Jour, which we had our barbecue there, which we failed to mention, for 30 minutes, and we just talked about different things, and she talked about how that, she had worked on, museum spaces and that kind of thing, and so we kind of compared some notes, and so she was very nice and very interesting, but she didn't say, I'm a big deal, you should know.
Also, I'm the woman who wrote the To Kill a Mockingbird play, produced it, and took it all around the world.
All
That's
around
me.
the world.
Oh, and Lane, that book you've been listening to, A Mockingbird Next Door, that you've listened to and read 12 times, they quote me in it 7 or 8 times at the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
Kevin and I are driving home, and they're like, said Cathy McCoy, and I'm like,
What?
what?
Wait, what?
So that kind of like topped off that trip with just a little.
I actually felt like I was on vacation for a minute when we were there.
You said that. I was so tired from speaking and from when you speak at an event, then everybody wants to come talk to you, which is so lovely. And of course you want that to happen. But for me, who is truly an introvert, is emotionally exhausting.
If I could talk to them afterwards and you could do the speech.
We need to work that out.
I know. I'm fine with talking to people. I love to talk to people.
Oh.
It's having something memorized or having to say things that's.
And it's not that I don't love
Not my
talking to
thing.
people. I like to talk to people, but as every
Well, it's
introvert
exhausting.
will attest to, it is emotionally, spiritually, and mentally exhausting for an introvert to do that.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you want to give them what they expect from you, and so you're like over giving and over giving and over giving and over giving.
Yeah.
And we had already done that for 3 days in that weekend, then we got a couple days of rest, and then we went and did that again. So by the end of that weekend, I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah.
And then we came home and moved out of Pearl.
But we are. I guess we didn't talk about that. We are completely out of Pearl now. The new owners have started moving in. They're
Before
going to
you
kind of do it
ask.
over a few weeks.
Yes, we sold Pearl. Sold Pearl 7 months ago. They let us rent it back for 6 months. The reason I'm saying it like this is because we've gone over it like 50 times, and every time I answer it, I get like 10 more.
Yes.
Wait, you sold Pearl?
Wait, did you sell Pearl?
Yes, 6,
Yes.
7 months ago. We've been renting it back, but we are out, and we are our friends Jim and Ruthie. How many times have I said our friends
I
Jim and
know,
Ruthie in this
because
video?
they come through for us all.
Yes, because they are our friends, Jim and Ruthie. They have an apartment at their home, and they're letting us stay there until the cottage is done. So there was like a moving out, and it's been a month, y'all. That's why there have been no videos.
That's why there have been no videos. But hopefully you've enjoyed this video. I think that's pretty much everything. We did have a solar eclipse here.
Yeah, we
And
came
we-
home for the totality.
Yes, we managed not to stare at the sun. That was very cool,
We
though.
did not do the sun stare. It's not a good activity.
It's not a good activity. Anything else you want to add, baby?
I don't think so. I think that we have told them an hour's worth of stuff. So
Yeah.
all of the sadness that you've had that, oh no, the video, there have not been any videos, we're making it up to you today.
Yeah, now they're like, well, y'all please shut up.
Yeah, quit showing us stuff and go away.
Thanks for being there for us. Thanks for watching all of our videos. Like, subscribe, share.
Thumbs up.
Really helps us. Give us a thumbs up. Don't give us a thumbs down and tell us the music's too loud.
Because you've got a mute button.
We will see you next time on Restoring Hope.